guys, welcome back to the channel here. I'm Alex. Today I'm talking about a really cool modification I made recently to my 2018 Tesla Model 3. This is really freaking cool. This is not a sponsored video. I bought this part myself. It is this Test Bros screen rotating bracket kit that makes your screen able to be swiveled 30 degrees in either direction, 30 degrees left and right. Whenever you buy a Tesla, the screen is pretty much fixed in one position and you can't move it either direction, and sometimes the glare of the sun, sometimes other reflections really kind of impede your ability to see the screen when you're driving. This kit is a lifesaver. I installed it about a month ago and I wanted to give myself a month or so before I gave a review to make sure I liked it, to make sure it didn't make any crazy noises. Well, I can honestly say it has been an absolute game changer. Having my screen tilted toward me in the car while I'm driving has been an absolute godsend. It's so much better than it used to be. Now, there are some things that are kind of a downside to this, and I'll get to those in this video today, but I want to make sure you know what you're doing, what you're getting yourself into, and I'll take you step by step if you're thinking about getting one of these swivel kits for yourself. Now, full warning here, this will take quite a bit of time. It took me about 2.5 to 3 hours just because I went very slow, made sure I wasn't messing anything up, and making sure I wasn't, ruining my $40,000 piece of machinery sitting in my garage. You do have to remove the screen entirely from your center console to do this, and I'll be honest with you, that's a little bit intimidating. So before you do this, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into and be up for a little bit of a heart-racing experience, because when you go to unplug that screen and take it off your center console, yeah, it can be a little bit of a heart-stopping moment if you don't do it right. This will be a step-by-step process to see how this kit gets installed and how it really benefits you after it is installed. If you are new to the channel, I appreciate you tuning in here. Give this video a big like and subscribe below, and also comment below if you've got one of these kits, if you're thinking about one of these kits, and any other questions I can answer for you. Let's dive into this kit first and see what's inside. All right, so the kit comes in a pretty nice looking box, right? The instructions are included. There are some sentences that are incomplete, just a heads up, but it does work. There's a small bag of tools you're gonna need. Those are included. There's also this big bracket itself. It's a heavy piece of black metal. It feels sturdy, it looks sturdy, it is just right in there for you. There's also various pieces of the new protective cover included. These will be the things that hide the gaps between the dash and the back of the screen once it's installed. There's also two different temperature sensor covers. The one with the graded mesh screen is for newer Model 3s, while mine, a 2018, will use the protective cover with the single hole. So just keep that in mind. The kit also comes with a small piece of plastic. It looks like this. It'll fill gaps if your car needs it. Some cars need it, some cars don't. Mine did not. There's also one large last piece of protective covering. This will snap into the dash. This will all make sense in a little bit. And finally, the two screws that you'll need, they're also in your box with all the other equipment. You'll definitely need these. Do not forget them. They can kind of like look hidden in the box if you kind of look fast, so don't forget them. All right, so on to the first step. It's pretty easy to understand, but kind of hard to do because you have to position yourself in a very odd way so that you can see up and under the big screen. So you're looking for the little slit in the temperature sensor cover. It's on the top, and at first it's going to feel like you can't really remove it or that your angle is wrong, so just keep that in mind. But using your plastic trim or panel removal tool, it's orange, wedge it into that little slit pretty firmly. But instead of pulling down, push up, and eventually the cover will pop out of place and fall. Don't worry, you're not going to do any damage to it. It's just really on there pretty good. My car was especially difficult. It took me like 3 or 4 minutes to finally get that cover off. The temperature sensor wire will be attached to the cover, so you'll just kind of disconnect that by using a hex key or Allen wrench, like some of you like to call them, to unscrew the two screws in there. Pretty simple. Once that's done, I would save that OEM cover in case you ever want to uninstall this kit or sell your car and take the kit off. Put that cover somewhere safe for future use. Do not throw it away. Also, before I forget, put your screen right now in cleaning mode before this second step. That way it doesn't accidentally get tapped or swiped during removal. Okay, now it's literally already time to unbolt the screen from the car. Can you believe that? Step 2, time to already unbolt the screen. Take a deep breath, because here it goes. You'll want to locate the 2 big 10mm bolts on either side of the screen mounting area. They're pretty easy to find on your own when you're not filming, like I was. They're pretty easy to find, right? And by the way, you'll likely need a 10mm sleeve to get up in there, because again, it's a crazy, awkward, uncomfortable angle otherwise. So just keep that in mind. And remember, as you're doing this, the screen is being unsecured, untethered from the car with this step, and it can move or dislodge pretty easily. So it's best that after one of the bolts is out or one of those bolts is loose, for you to support the screen with one hand if you can, while you remove the other bolt, just to be extra cautious. Don't let them just kind of hang out there on their own. Support with one hand while you unscrew with the other. Okay, so now for the really scary part, the full removal of the screen. Yeah, we're already there. Again, step 3, time to take off the entire screen. Lay down a soft cloth where you can place the screen once you remove it. I chose my center console, and remember, it's still connected via a wire to the car, so you can't really place it down anywhere too far away, at least not at this point. So grab the screen pretty firmly on both sides, and with equal pulling power, give it a soft yank, but a solid soft yank. It probably won't come off on your first try because you'll be likely anxious and worried like I was that you're going to cause some kind of damage, but just keep at it, soft but firm pulls, and eventually it does pop off. Remember, don't pull too hard because it's still attached in the back with that wire. So my screen's wire was really kind of short, actually. It was super short and didn't really allow me to set it down initially without putting too much strain and pull on the wire. So I had to move my cloth a little bit further up to get it closer in order to put the screen down. So it really concerned me, to be frank, for a while because I couldn't even lay it down. The wire was so short. And I don't know if it was like stuck inside the dash or I just got a short wire from the factory. I don't know what, but it really did kind of throw me for a loop. So just a warning that that could happen to you as well. All right, so I ended up just holding the screen for most of this step to prevent any damage to that wire in the back. So grab your hex tool that came with the kit, and you'll want to take out the 2 screws that hold the plastic cover piece into place on the back of the screen. They're pretty easy to find. You can't really miss them. I didn't really get a shot of them because my hands were occupied here holding the screen and using the tool, so only 2 hands. You do the math. Once those screws are out, lift the plastic piece up and over the wire and let it rest there for a few moments just out of the way. Next up, remove the plastic clip that is surrounding the red connector, which is then attached to the screen. The little plastic clip looks just like this. Take note of how it fits because you're going to be putting it on in this similar fashion a little bit later. Next, you'll use a small screwdriver or some other small pointy object to push in the clasp on the connector, on the red connector. It should stay pushed in if you do this part right. I did not do this part right the first few times, and my light pulls on the wire didn't go anywhere. It just didn't really move at all, which was kind of frustrating. So I changed angles, moved the camera, and eventually decided to use the screwdriver to push in the clasp at the same time as I was pulling, and voila, it disconnected. So try that if you're having some trouble initially. Again, you'll want to save this OEM piece of plastic shielding. Do not throw it out. It's a Tesla part, a Tesla original part. You want to hold on to that. And now the screen is disconnected and detached from the car. Your heart is racing, probably. Move the screen out of the way completely so it can't be damaged. You can't step on it or knock it off. I just chose my upper dashboard with a microfiber cloth underneath. All right, so at this point in the install, my car is a mess, as you can see. It looked like it had been ransacked by thieves with parts everywhere. The empty center dash makes it look like a shell of a car. There's just nothing there. Not a pretty sight, but you know, not all is lost just yet. You're halfway through. Alrighty, so now it's time to install the black swivel bracket. It can only be inserted one way, just like this, and don't worry if the lower part of the bracket seems off-center or looks off-center from this angle. It's meant to look that way. You're going to be using the 2 screws you removed from the screen to bolt this bracket into place. You'll probably have to move the bracket's arms out of the way to reach the holes on either side. Make sure to apply some kind of force because it'll be kind of tight. And be sure to move the bracket back and forth in its place to line up the holes, then go ahead and bolt them into place. I did both sides by hand first, just kind of tightening them by my fingertips just to get them lined up and in place. Then I grabbed that same 10mm sleeve and ratcheted them both into place pretty tightly. Now grab the big tensioning wrench that came with the kit to adjust the bracket's tension. You do that by turning the wrench on the underside of the bracket. Pretty simple to do. But a warning here, do not loosen this bracket too much, if at all, because you want the screen to stay in place and not move or swivel from side to side when you hit a bump or you're just out for a drive. Do not loosen this too much. I initially, honestly, did loosen mine just a little bit too much, and I had to kind of, tighten it back up. I ended up loosening mine just a teeny bit in the very end. You should not be able to easily move the bracket. It should sort of resist. That will keep the screen in place. All right, so if your car is prone to gaps, you might want to use this little spacer that I talked about earlier in the video that comes with the kit. It fits just like this. I ultimately didn't end up using it because I couldn't keep it in place and didn't want it to fall down into the dash and cause rattling if I couldn't retrieve it. Evaluate as you see fit. So now grab the big plastic cover that comes with your kit and thread both the temperature sensor wire and the screen wire through the middle. You will also have to navigate the plastic cover's cutout areas around the black bracket because it will likely be in the way. Just twist the bracket, rotate the plastic cover. Eventually you'll figure it out. It will fit, even though if it seems at first like it won't. This step is a little bit frustrating too because when you finally get it past the bracket, the plastic clips don't always clip into place as easily or as tight as you'd like. The best advice is to try to get the bottom clips in first and then worry about the top. After 5 minutes or so of me struggling, I changed positions and then suddenly, yeah, the bottom snapped into place and then the top followed suit. So bottom first, then the top. And also, I'll be completely honest, it is not a 100% fit, but remember, the screen will be covering all of this, all of these little gaps, and you'll likely never see it unless you go to uninstall this a few years down the road or you're sitting in your passenger seat at some crazy angle. Most of this will never be seen. All right, next step. So grab the smaller plastic piece that comes with your kit and thread it with just the screen connector wire, not the temperature sensor wire like I did here. I had to undo this at the end. Again, just the screen connector wire, not the temperature sensor wire. So grab the 2 screws you took out from the back of the screen before and use those to bolt this plastic piece into place. At this point, I realized I had forgotten this small white connector cover, so I had to add it with minimal space for my fingers and such. Just a heads up, this is much better to do before you bolt the cover into place. You can learn from my suffering. And take note, by the way, of how this goes on, this white plastic piece. The long white tab points up with the clasps opening on the right side. Just take note of how this looks. So next up, it's time to mount the screen on the bracket. And at first glance, I'm going to be honest, it's going to look like you did something wrong or that it couldn't possibly mount correctly, but it will. You might want to ask for a friend to help here. It will likely make this a little bit easier. For my screen, I had to push up on the dash piece just like this to make a smidge more room to allow the screen's arms to snugly fit into the space. Not everyone has this problem, but again, you'll figure this out for your individual car. And speaking of problems, this is the point in the installation where I almost teared up, and here's why. Literal tears almost formed. Because somehow when my screen was reconnected, as you can see, it was no longer in cleaning mode, and it was also not responding at all to my touch. The touch portion, the touch technology was dead. The date and temperature were right. The doors were open. The settings were correct. But as you can see, it did not respond to my touch. I was losing my freaking mind at this point. When I closed my door and stepped on the brake like I was going to pull out, all the lights come on, the sounds were made, nothing worked though for touchscreen. I was so freaking scared. But I quickly reset the car by holding down the 2 turn wheels, and thankfully, when the screen came back on after the reset, it worked perfectly. All right, so we've got all of that fixed. All the worry is out of the way. You kind of have to peer over now the top of the screen in order to match it up with the bracket. It's more of an angled fit, so be aware. Grab the 2 screws that came with the kit and screw them into place. This part is tough because of the angle again and your lack of visibility. You will have to move the screen up and down, tilt it slightly a few times to get the angle right. All right, so once that's done, congratulations, you have a swivel screen. Give it a try, move it from side to side, take a few moments to check it out, check the drag or tension of the screen to see if you loosened it too much or not enough, and see how difficult it is to move, and see if you have to make any adjustments. It's much easier to do that right now than it is down the road when everything is done. So the screen swivels, but you're not totally done just yet. Grab the correct temperature sensor cover for your car and install it. For the Model 3's 2020 and older, a reminder, use this one. For Model 3's 2020 and newer, use this one. It's pretty easy to reinstall. Just use the original 2 small screws and attach it to the new sensor cover. The next step is just affixing the new sensor cover to its place on the dash. You can see right where it fits. This, again, another awkward angle, but just play with it and it will snap into place. Now you are all done. You have a swiveling screen inside your Tesla, and for all intents and purposes, it looks original and it feels really great. It's like a factory option, but not a factory option. They should all have this, by the way. And for me, truly, it's so much easier now for me to see what the car is telling me, to navigate, play music, change settings. There's no glare, there's no light blocking my view. And when I have a passenger along for a ride, it's just so simple to swivel in their direction and let them take over. No more leaning into the center of the car to stare at the screen head on. This is truly a fantastic and pretty easy DIY install. And one thing I forgot to mention is that this kit actually is also usable on a Tesla Model Y. Obviously mine is just a Model 3, but if you've got a Model Y, this kit will also do. This is a really great kit, super happy with it. You saw how crazy the installation can be. How much was your heart racing whenever my screen wouldn't work? Finally figured it out after resetting the car, and all is well. So if this video was helpful for you, let me know in the comments below what part was your favorite part. I will be sure to link this below to make sure you can buy one yourself if you want to give it a try. Again, this is not a sponsored video. I bought this with my own money, so no sponsorship here. Please like with a big thumbs up, comment below, and subscribe to the channel. I so appreciate all the support. I'm interested in seeing what your thoughts are and connecting with more of the Tesla EV community. Subscribe, like, and comment. We'll see you all next time.